Hi, my name is Jo, and this is a book review about The Orphan Train by Christina Kline. This is a story about two orphan girls. Neve is an orphan in the 1920s and is currently in her 90s, while Molly is a 17-year-old girl currently in the foster care system. So it goes back and forth between Neve's past and Molly and Neve's future together. Molly got in trouble and has to do a community service project. She ends up having to help Neve clean out her attic. And in the course of all this, they befriend each other, and Molly ends up doing a project about Neve and finds out more about her history and her past. Tells Neve's whole life up until her 90s and the things then that Molly does to help her, and the way that Neve also helps Molly. They're kindred spirits. They're both orphans. They've both had a rough time of it, and even though Molly's only 17, she really helps Neve in her 90s. It was just heartwarming. I guess this will be my sappy book. I'm not a sappy person. Gosh, I hate feeling feelings. Neve's family are immigrants from Ireland. They come over on a boat in the early 1920s. She is, I believe, 6 or 7 at the time. Something tragic happens. She loses her family and ends up in an orphanage. The orphan train was real. It transported 200,000 children from the East Coast to the West Coast between 1854 and 1929. I plan to look into the orphan train more just because I'm curious about it. It's heartbreaking. I assume that the orphan train ended because of the Depression. So this tells about Neve's trip on the orphan train and what happens when she arrives in Minnesota. They line the children up and families just come up and say, I want that one, or I want that one. And they're supposed to provide clothing and food and shelter and a good Christian upbringing, and they're also supposed to send these children to school. However, that does not always happen. These couples are not really vetted like today's foster care system, although there are problems with today's foster care system also. But this book kind of contrasts the things that happen. Molly ends up in bad foster care situations, current day, and back in the 1920s, Neve ended up in bad foster care or adoptive family situations also. So it's an extremely interesting story. I read this in about 5 very interrupted hours last night. I could not put the book down. This book was just amazing. I enjoyed it tremendously. Then knowing that it's based on true events made it even more interesting to me. These notices would be posted on signposts and billboards in the towns that the orphan train would be stopping at. The people would literally inspect the children, their teeth, their eyes. It was likened to indentured servitude because they're going to the Midwest and some of the farmers are just looking for farm hands. Does the babies go first because they're babies, and then older healthy boys because they can help on the farm for free. They don't have to pay them. They're supposed to feed them and clothe them, but that doesn't always happen. And the older boys know this. They know that they're probably going to end up somewhere in a not so good situation. Then there are the children like Neve, who she has red hair. She's Irish Catholic, and she's about 9 years old. So she's not a young, cute little kid. The red hair, apparently. No one wants a red-haired child. And she's not old enough, really, for labored work. It was an amazing book. I loved it. I'm very glad I read it, even though I cried, and it made me feel feelings. And I strongly recommend this book. Strongly recommend you read this book. If you've read this book, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. So comment below and let me know what you thought about it. If you've looked up anything about orphan trains, I would love to find out more about orphan trains. Such a heartbreaking thing. Let me know what you read this weekend, and I will talk to you later. Bye.